I spent weeks rebuilding my porch after a fire. My neighbor complained to the city it was unsightly. When I asked her why, she looked me in the eye and said, "Some of us have standards." I nodded, then pulled out the permit she never filed. All right, here's the deal. I live in a neighborhood that's trying way too hard to be something it's not. It's old suburban. Think post-war bungalows with fresh paint and a weird obsession with lawn edging. It's the kind of place where people care more about how things look than how people are. I bought my house 10 years ago. I was proud of it. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Paid with the kind of money you earn doing graveyard shifts and working doubles, not trust funds or real estate tips. Over the years, I fixed it up bit by bit. Nothing flashy, just trying to keep it solid. Then came the fire. It happened late April. I'd just come home from a double shift. I was half asleep on the couch when I smelled something sharp. I thought maybe I'd left the stove on. Nope. It was the wall socket near the porch. The wiring had finally given out. By the time I got out and called 911, half my porch was gone. Smoke damage inside. Scorched siding. A nightmare. The firefighters were great. One of them said, "Lucky you got out when you did." Yeah, real lucky. Insurance covered the basics. But they lowballed everything. Said I needed contractors, permits, all that. What I needed was my house back. And I didn't have time to wait months. So I started rebuilding the porch myself. I'm not a contractor, but I can measure, saw, nail. I watched videos, asked around, even went down to the city office and got the proper permits. I made sure to file everything, just in case. I worked every day after my shifts. Sometimes I started at 6 a.m., sometimes I was out there under a floodlight at midnight. It wasn't pretty. Rebuilding never is. There were wood stacks, plastic tarps, a sawhorse I borrowed from my cousin. It was chaos, but it was progress. And, of course, that's when she got involved. Sharon. 2 doors down. The unofficial HOA. Even though we don't have one. Blonde bob haircut, yoga pants, giant dog that never actually leaves her perfectly power-washed driveway. Always watching. Always smiling like she's swallowing something sour. She never offered help. Never asked if I was okay after the fire. Just stared every time I came outside. Then one Thursday I come home, and there's a manila envelope stuffed in my mailbox. City seal. Inside, a complaint. Violation of local ordinances regarding construction debris and unsightly property. No name, just a resident. But we all know. I stared at that letter for a long time. My hands were still dusty from sanding. I could feel the calluses tightening. I wasn't even mad, not yet. I was just tired. So damn tired. Next morning, I marched down the sidewalk and knocked on her door. She opened it like she'd been expecting me. "I'm guessing this was you?" I held up the letter. She didn't blink, just raised her eyebrows and said, "Some of us have standards." That line. That damn line. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just nodded once. Then I pulled the folder from under my arm and showed her a printed copy of her house's original building plan, followed by a photo. Her new deck. Built last summer. Wider than the old one. No record of a permit. I watched her expression change. Just for a second. Then she slammed the door, without a word. That's when things started to shift. And I wasn't done yet. I didn't report her right away. I wanted to. God, I really wanted to. But something about the way she looked at me when she slammed that door, it stuck with me. Like she was daring me to do something. Like she thought I wouldn't. So I waited. I finished the porch first. Took another 3 weeks. I did everything by the book. I called for inspections, passed every one. Even the city guy said, "Nice work for a DIY job." I kept that signed approval on my fridge like a trophy. Then I went digging. See, Sharon liked to keep her yard perfect, but she didn't do all that work herself. She had a contractor. I remembered the truck, some guy named Dale with custom decks and exteriors, in peeling vinyl on the side. I looked him up. Took 5 minutes to find his business profile. Turns out he had a habit of skipping permits if the homeowner asked him to keep it cheap. I took pictures.
Her deck.
The materials. Measured it from the sidewalk, counted the steps. Matched it with the old listing photos from when she bought the place. Yeah, it was definitely extended. No question. Then I called the city. No anger in my voice. Just polite curiosity. Hey, I'm a homeowner nearby. Just wondering if someone built a new deck without a permit, is that something you guys check on? They said if there's a complaint, they investigate. So I filed one. Just like hers. A week later, a city vehicle pulled up in front of her house. I was watering the new flowers I planted next to the porch. Sharon was already outside, probably because she saw the truck turn the corner from 3 blocks away. She tried to smile, act confused. The inspector pointed at the deck, then took out a measuring tape. I didn't stare. I didn't gloat. I just went inside and closed the door. Later that night, I got a note. Not in the mailbox. Not on the door. On my windshield. Tucked under the wiper blade. It was typed. No signature. Just one sentence. Careful where you dig. Dirt goes both ways.
I stared at it for a long time.
Not fear. Just surprise. I thought it was over. But Sharon? She wasn't done either. That note on my windshield changed things. It wasn't just a warning. It was a threat. And not the dramatic, movie kind either. The kind that says, you might think you've won, but I know something. That's what got under my skin. The idea that she was sitting in her perfect little house with her ceramic frogs and waiting for me to flinch. So I didn't. Instead, I did what any quiet, stubborn person does when they feel someone's trying to rattle them. I got nosy. I went to the county clerk's office during my day off. It was the kind of place with flickering lights and old computers. I asked for property records on Sharon's address. Took some convincing, but it wasn't anything public record wouldn't show. That's when I found it. 3 years ago, she filed a complaint against the previous owner of my house. Said his backyard shed was an eyesore and violating setback regulations. He got fined. Ended up tearing the whole thing down. That shed?
It was a workshop.
Same one that would have helped me rebuild after the fire. She'd been doing this for years, slowly pushing neighbors out, one complaint at a time. I started asking around. Turns out, 3 families on the block moved out after issues with Sharon. 2 of them had city complaints filed against them right before they listed their houses. She didn't just have standards. She had a pattern. But this wasn't about her anymore. This was about me and my home. I went back to the inspector, who'd approved my porch. I showed him photos of her deck again. Then I asked a question I hadn't thought to ask before. If she never filed a permit and a contractor did the work, who's liable if it fails? He didn't even blink. The homeowner and the contractor. Both can be fined. And if it's not to code, she might have to tear it down. I said thanks and left. 2 days later, I dropped a second complaint. This one wasn't anonymous. I signed my name. Let her see it. That's when she snapped. It started with the noise. Every morning at 6 a.m. sharp, a leaf blower. Her driveway didn't have a single leaf on it. But she'd stand there, arms crossed, letting that thing scream against the concrete for 15 minutes straight. Then came the lawn mower, even when the grass didn't need cutting. Hedge trimmers. Pressure washer. Anything that made noise and stole quiet. I didn't react. I kept working my shifts. I watered my new flower beds. I even added a rocking chair to the porch. I sat there every evening with a cold drink, just watching the sun go down while she raged in silence behind those perfect curtains. Then she went for something personal. I came home one night and found my trash bins tipped over. Not knocked, dragged. The bags were ripped open, garbage scattered across the driveway. I checked the security cam I'd installed after the fire. Of course it caught nothing. Someone had cut the power cord right where it connects to the side panel. That's when I knew it wasn't just petty anymore. She wanted a reaction. So I gave her one, but not the one she expected. I walked right up to her front door the next morning.
Come.
Coffee in hand. I rang once. She opened it like she was waiting again. Same fake smile. You going to say something? She said. I nodded. Just letting you know I filed a third complaint. Her smile dropped. This time for harassment and tampering with property. She stepped forward. You think this neighborhood's going to take your side? You think people like you last here? That people like you stuck in the air like a stench. She didn't mean race. She didn't mean class. She meant people who don't obey. I didn't answer. I just walked back across the lawn, slowly, letting her watch every step. That night, a letter came. Certified mail. From her attorney. A cease and desist. Accusing me of defamation, slander, and harassment. I brought it straight to a friend of mine, an actual lawyer who owed me a favor from way back. He read it, laughed once, and said, "You know she's bluffing, right? This is hot air."
But I didn't care about that.
What got me wasn't the legal stuff. It was the fact that she'd rather escalate everything, waste money, energy, and time, than admit maybe she was wrong. Or maybe just cruel. And then, 2 weeks later, I saw the for sale sign in her yard. But this story still wasn't over. The for sale sign popped up quietly, like she hoped no one would notice. But this neighborhood? Nothing goes unnoticed. Not when Sharon's house was the one in question. At first, I figured she'd had enough. Maybe the city pressure, the fines, the inspectors, maybe it finally wore her down. But something didn't sit right. She didn't look defeated. She looked busy. Every day she had people coming in and out, cleaners, landscapers, even a staging company. She was preparing the house like it was going on the market in Beverly Hills, not a tired Midwestern suburb. Her deck? Still standing. No repairs, no demo. I called the city to follow up. They said the case was still under review. Then came the rumor. One of my other neighbors, Carl, 3 houses down, been here longer than anyone, caught me outside. "You know she's not selling, right?" he said. I raised an eyebrow. She's transferring the house to her nephew. Loophole. Trying to dump the fines before they stick. That's when I realized this wasn't her giving up. It was her dodging the fallout, letting someone else take the hit while she walked away clean. And that's when I made the hardest call of this whole thing. I called Dale, the contractor. He didn't answer the first time. Second time, he hung up the moment I said who I was. Third time, I got smart. I texted him a single sentence. Her permit violations could cost you your license. He called back 10 minutes later. We met in the parking lot of a Dollar Tree. Neutral ground. I didn't threaten him. I just told him what I knew and what I was willing to send the city if her deck wasn't reported properly. He cracked. Told me the whole story. How she insisted on keeping it off the books, how she paid cash. He even showed me the texts, her, asking him to make it look original. I didn't send it to the city. Not yet. Instead, I forwarded it to Sharon's realtor. No message.
No explanation.
Just the screenshots. 2 days later, the for sale sign disappeared. The listing was pulled offline. The staging company came back, this time to remove everything. And Sharon? She stopped blowing leaves. Stopped talking. But she didn't leave. Not yet. After the sign came down, things got quiet. Not peaceful. Just still. The kind of still where you can feel tension under everything, like a stretched wire that hasn't snapped yet. Sharon stopped pretending. No more smiles, no more power washing at 6 a.m. She didn't speak to anyone. Just stayed inside with her blinds drawn and her giant dog staring out the window like it was on watch. People started whispering. Someone said the city finally issued the fine. Others said the realtor dropped her as a client. Carl told me he saw a different man, maybe a lawyer, show up at her door with a thick envelope. Whatever it was, it left a mark. Then one night, I saw her sitting on her back deck. It was around 9 p.m. I was on my own porch, just rocking, drinking a beer. That deck of hers was barely visible through the trees, but the glow from her patio light cut through. She was just sitting there, alone. No phone, no dog, nothing. Just her and a glass of wine, staring into space. And I felt something I didn't expect. Pity. Not forgiveness. Not sympathy. Just this hollow ache in my chest. Because the truth was, I didn't win. Not really. I just survived. And now we were both living in the ruins of our own choices, 10 feet apart. The next morning, I found a letter taped to my mailbox. Handwritten. 2 pages. No return address. No signature. But it was hers. She didn't apologize. Not exactly. It was more like justification. She talked about keeping the neighborhood in order. About protecting property values. About how people used to respect boundaries and how she never meant for it to get so ugly. She wrote that her husband used to handle these things, but he died 5 years ago, and she's been holding the line ever since. Then one line near the end stopped me cold. I didn't expect to lose control, and I definitely didn't expect to lose to you. That word, lose, told me everything. She saw this whole thing as a game, a battle, and in her mind, she lost. But the truth was, there were no winners here. Just 2 neighbors staring across a line that would never quite go back to what it was. Sometimes I still catch myself waiting for her to come outside, like we're still in it, still circling each other. But the truth is, I don't think either of us knew how to stop. And now, every time I step onto that porch I rebuilt with my own hands, I remember how much damage 2 people can do just by refusing to back down. I never wanted revenge. I just wanted to be left alone. But now I wonder if that's what she wanted too, and neither of us knew how to say out loud.